Flight attendant called Black Woman Monkey. She's CEO. Pulled $1 billion deal instantly. Get out. Back to coach, you stinking black monkey. Monica Sinclair stopped mid-step, her carry-on handle still warm in her palm.
Excuse me, I believe this is my seat.
Yunfar? First class.
Yuhiga Banmar Panorentisti. Autebika Safi.
Please, just check our boarding passes. Brenda snatched them, held them under the light, flipped them twice. Stolen, obviously. She tossed them back. Your kind doesn't fly first class. Everybody knows that. Monica caught the passes in midair. Her hands were steady, her voice barely above a whisper. We paid for these seats, ma'am. Paid? Brenda snorted. Right. The whole cabin was watching. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. She had no idea who she had just called a monkey. And what came next cost her airline $1 billion. 3 hours earlier, Monica Sinclair was standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office on the 40th floor of Ascend Global Holdings. Manhattan stretched beneath her like a circuit board. Tiny lights, tiny lives, all humming. The East River caught the last copper streaks of sunset. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it. A message from her general counsel, Denise Grant. Final draft ready, Orion Atlantic, $1 billion. Just needs your signature Monday. Monica typed back one word. Good. She signed off the board call, closed her laptop, and slid it into her bag. No assistant packed it for her. No one carried it to the elevator. She zipped it herself, slung it over her shoulder, and walked out. On her way through the lobby, she stopped at the security desk. The night guard, a man named Earl, who'd worked the building for 11 years, looked up from his crossword. Heading out early, Ms. Sinclair? Weekend trip, Earl. L.A. with Terrence. Tell that big man I said hello. I will. She pushed through the revolving door and into the warm Manhattan evening. Car horns, street food smoke, a saxophone playing somewhere down the block. She could have called her driver. She could have taken the black SUV parked in the garage with her name on the space. Instead, she flagged a yellow cab. The driver was a Haitian man named George. They talked about his daughter's college applications the entire ride to JFK. Monica gave him her business card before she got out. Have her email me, she said. We have an internship program. That was Monica Sinclair. No entourage, no fuss, just the woman who remembered where she came from. Detroit public housing, a single mother who worked 2 shifts at a hospital laundry, a scholarship to Wharton that changed everything. She never forgot the smell of bleach on her mother's hands. At JFK Terminal 4, Terrence was waiting by the gate. 6'4", 240 pounds. Former NFL linebacker turned venture capitalist. He was wearing a cashmere hoodie, custom-made, no logo, and reading a paperback thriller. He looked up when she approached and smiled the way he always did, like she was the only person in the room. You ready? He asked. Born ready. He kissed her forehead. She leaned into it for exactly 2 seconds. Then they walked down the jet bridge together. They'd booked first class on Orion Atlantic for a reason. This wasn't just a weekend getaway. Monica wanted to experience the airline from the inside, the service, the culture, the feel of it, before signing the biggest contract in Ascend Global's history. $1 billion to overhaul Orion Atlantic's entire maintenance, logistics, and in-flight technology. Her company, her money, her call. She wanted to see what she was buying into. The first-class cabin smelled like warmed cashews and leather, soft lighting, wide seats the color of cream, a jazz playlist murmuring through the speakers. 8 seats total, most already filled. A white businessman in 1C typing on a laptop. An older couple in 3A and 3B sharing a bottle of wine. A young woman across the aisle, blonde, phone out, filming herself, who Monica would later learn was a travel blogger named Allison Perry. Monica and Terrence settled into 2A and 2B. Their clothes were beautiful but quiet. Monica wore a tailored ivory blazer and dark slacks, custom cut from a private tailor in Milan, not a single logo anywhere. Terrence's hoodie alone cost more than most people's rent, but you'd never know. No Gucci, no Louis Vuitton, no gold watches, nothing that screamed. That was the point. The truly wealthy don't advertise. They just exist. And that was the problem. Because Brenda Caldwell didn't see wealth. She didn't see a CEO. She didn't see 18 years of grinding from analyst to boardroom. She saw 2 black people in seats she believed they didn't deserve. Brenda had worked Orion Atlantic's first-class cabin for 12 years. Crisp uniform, perfect French twist, a smile she turned on and off like a light switch, warm for white passengers, cold for everyone else. 14 discrimination complaints had been filed against her over the years. Every single one had been buried by her supervisor, a man who played golf with her husband on weekends. She spotted Monica and Terrence the moment they stepped through the curtain, and something behind her eyes shifted. The confrontation at the curtain was just the appetizer. After Monica and Terrence sat down, Brenda disappeared into the galley for a full 5 minutes. When she came back, she was carrying a tray of champagne flutes, golden, bubbling, catching the cabin light like liquid jewelry. She started at row 1. The white businessman in 1C got his glass first. Brenda placed it on his armrest with 2 fingers, gentle as setting down a newborn. "Welcome aboard, sir. Anything else I can get you?" Her voice was honey, pure sweetness. The older white couple in row 3, same treatment, same smile. She even complimented the woman's necklace. "That's gorgeous, ma'am. Is that Tiffany?" Allison Perry across the aisle. "Here you go, sweetheart. Let me know if you need anything at all." Then she reached row 2, Monica and Terrence. She walked right past them. Not a glance, not a word, not a flute. As if their seats were empty, as if they were air. Terrence watched the champagne tray disappear into the galley. He turned to Monica. "Did that just happen?" Monica's eyes followed Brenda through the curtain. "Yes. She skipped us." "I know." Terrence pressed the call button. The little orange light blinked above their heads. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3. The light kept blinking. Nobody came. He pressed it again. 4 minutes, 5. Finally, Brenda appeared. She didn't approach the seat. She stood 3 feet away in the aisle, arms crossed, hip cocked, looking at Terrence the way a teacher looks at a child who won't stop tapping his desk. "What?" Not "yes, sir." Not "how can I help?" Just "what?" Terrence kept his voice even. "We didn't get our welcome drinks." Brenda stared at him for a long moment. Then she sighed. loud, theatrical, making sure everyone heard. "I'm busy serving actual passengers right now. You'll get yours when I get to it." She turned and walked away. Actual passengers. The words hung in the recycled cabin air like smoke. The businessman in 1C looked up from his laptop. The older couple exchanged a glance. Allison Perry's thumb hovered over her phone screen. Monica reached over and squeezed Terrence's hand. "Not yet," she murmured. "Let it play." 10 minutes later, Brenda returned with 2 glasses, but they weren't champagne flutes. They were plastic cups, the kind you get in economy, filled with water. Lukewarm water. She didn't hand them over. She set them on the armrest with a thud, water sloshing over the rim onto Monica's sleeve. "There. Drinks." "We'd like champagne, please," Monica said, like everyone else received. Brenda tilted her head, slow, deliberate, like she was hearing a dog bark and trying to decide if it was worth acknowledging. "Champagne is for first-class passengers. We are first-class passengers." Brenda's eyes traveled over Monica's blazer, her natural hair, Terrence's hoodie. "I already checked your passes. We both know how you got those seats. I'm not wasting good champagne on people who won't appreciate it." She turned and left before Monica could respond. The cabin felt smaller now. The jazz playlist was still playing, but nobody was listening. The older woman in 3B was staring at her wine glass like she wanted to disappear into it. The businessman in 1C had stopped typing. 30 minutes into the flight, the seatbelt sign turned off. Monica rose to use the restroom. As she walked up the aisle, she passed the galley. The curtain was half drawn. Inside, Brenda was leaning against the counter, talking to a younger flight attendant, a girl in her 20s who looked deeply uncomfortable. Brenda's voice carried. She wasn't whispering. She wasn't trying to. "I don't care what their tickets say. Those 2 shouldn't be here. Look at them. You can literally smell them from the galley. It's like someone dragged in 2 sewer rats and put them in leather seats." The younger attendant shifted her weight. "Brenda, maybe we should just what? Serve them like they're normal? Please. First time on a plane, guaranteed. Probably stole those tickets off some website. Or maybe their pimp bought them. Either way, not my problem." Monica stood outside the curtain. She heard every word. Her hand rested on the galley wall. Her fingertips pressed into the cool metal until her knuckles went pale. She said nothing. She walked to the restroom, closed the door, and looked at herself in the mirror. The fluorescent light above the sink hummed and flickered. Her reflection stared back, steady, unbroken. She washed her hands, dried them with a paper towel, folded it in half, placed it in the bin. Then she went back to her seat. "What happened?" Terrence asked. He could read her face like a book. "Later." Dinner service came an hour in. Brenda worked the cabin with the precision of a performance artist, but the performance had 2 acts. Act 1 was for the white passengers. Act 2 was for Monica and Terrence. Act 1. She laid white linen napkins across laps. She presented the menu with both hands. She described each dish like a sommelier presenting a rare vintage. "The filet mignon tonight is from a ranch in Montana, dry-aged 21 days. Absolutely exquisite. May I recommend the Cabernet to pair?" The businessman in 1C smiled. The older couple nodded appreciatively. Allison Perry asked for the salmon. Brenda said, Excellent choice, darling. Act 2. Brenda approached row 2, carrying 2 trays stacked on top of each other. She didn't present a menu. She didn't describe anything. She dropped the trays onto the fold-out tables from 6 inches up. The impact rattled the silverware. A bread roll bounced off Monica's tray and landed on the floor. The food was economy class, not first class. Plastic-wrapped sandwiches, a bruised apple, a carton of orange juice with a bent straw. "We ordered the filet mignon," Terrence said. His voice was calm, but a vein in his temple had started to pulse. "Sold out," Brenda said. "The gentleman 1 row ahead of us ordered after we did. He received filet mignon." "Well," Brenda shrugged, "he got lucky." "I'd like to speak with the head of cabin crew." Brenda leaned down, close, so close Terrence could smell her perfume, something floral and aggressive. "You're looking at her, sweetheart." She straightened up, adjusted her collar, and walked away. Her heels clicked on the cabin floor like a metronome counting down to something inevitable. Monica looked down at the plastic-wrapped sandwich on her tray. She didn't touch it. She picked up the bread roll from the floor, placed it on the tray, and folded her hands in her lap. Terrence pulled out his phone. He angled it low, resting it against his thigh, the camera pointing forward. The red recording dot blinked silently. Across the aisle, Allison Perry had her phone propped against a water bottle. Her screen showed a live recording, 23 minutes and counting. She caught Monica's eye, a tiny nod, almost invisible. 2 cameras, 2 angles, every word being captured. And Brenda Caldwell had no idea. Monica reached for Terrence's hand under the armrest. She held it, tight, not out of fear, not out of anger, out of patience. The kind of patience that comes from a lifetime of being underestimated. The kind that waits and watches and remembers. Because Monica Sinclair didn't get to the CEO's chair by exploding. She got there by staying quiet until the moment mattered. And that moment was coming. The cabin lights dimmed to a soft amber glow. Most passengers had settled into the drowsy rhythm of a cross-country red-eye. But in row 2, nobody was sleeping. Monica asked for a blanket. She pressed the call button and waited. 2 minutes. 5. The orange light blinked like a heartbeat nobody cared about. Brenda finally appeared. She was carrying a blanket, but not the plush cashmere ones folded in the first-class overhead bins. This one was thin, gray, wrinkled, the kind they hand out in the back of the plane, the kind that smells like recycling and static electricity. She didn't hand it to Monica. She balled it up, crumpled it into a tight wad like a piece of waste paper, and threw it straight at Monica's face. The fabric hit her nose and fell into her lap. "There you go, monkey. Should feel just like home. Probably nicer than whatever hole you crawled out of." 3 rows up, the businessman in 1C had just received his blanket. Brenda had draped it over his shoulders herself, tucked the edges, asked if he'd like a pillow, too. "Let me get you one of the memory foam ones, sir. You'll sleep like a baby." Same cabin, same flight, same airline. 2 different worlds. Terrence's hands balled into fists beneath the armrest. The tendons in his neck tightened like bridge cables. He started to rise from his seat, all 6'4" of him, 240 pounds of coiled fury. Monica put her hand on his forearm, light but firm. "Baby, sit down." "She threw it at your face." "I know. In front of everyone. I know. Sit down. He sat, but his breathing came heavy through his nose, and his phone was still recording in his lap. The red dot pulsed like a small, angry heart. 20 minutes later, the cabin went dark for the sleep period. The only light came from the emergency exit signs and the occasional blue glow of a phone screen. Most passengers had their eyes closed. That's when Brenda came back for the wine. She was clearing trays from the forward rows, moving slowly, taking her time. When she reached row 2, she was carrying a full glass of red wine, dark, almost black Cabernet, on a small tray. What happened next, 4 passengers would later describe in sworn depositions. Brenda's foot caught on the carpet. Her body tilted forward, and the entire glass of wine, every last drop, poured directly onto Monica's lap. It hit her ivory blazer first, then soaked through her slacks, then pooled on the seat leather and dripped onto the floor. The blazer, hand-stitched in Milan, one of a kind, turned the color of a bruise. But that wasn't the worst part. The wine splashed across Monica's laptop sitting open on the fold-out table. The screen flickered, sputtered, went black. Inside that laptop were the final contract documents for the Orion Atlantic deal. Every clause, every number, every signature line. Dead. Brenda's apology was a performance worthy of an Oscar. "Oh no, oh my goodness, I am so sorry." She pressed her hand to her chest. Her eyes went wide, a practiced, theatrical kind of wide. "These things just happen sometimes. Turbulence, you know?" There was no turbulence. The flight was smooth as glass. Every passenger in the cabin knew it, and then the mask slipped. Brenda looked at the wine stains spreading across Monica's blazer and smirked. Quick, just a flash, the corner of her mouth twitching upward for half a second. But Monica saw it. Terrence saw it. And Allison Perry's camera saw it. "Maybe next time," Brenda said, brushing an invisible piece of lint off her uniform. "Don't wear white on a plane. Especially when you're not used to nice things." She didn't offer napkins. She didn't offer club soda. She didn't offer to clean the seat. She just turned around and walked back to the galley, her heels clicking against the floor. Monica looked down at her ruined blazer. The red wine was still spreading, creeping through the white fabric like blood through snow. Her laptop screen was dead, a black mirror reflecting her own face back at her. She could feel the wine soaking through to her skin, cold, sticky. She didn't stand up. She didn't raise her voice. She reached into her bag, pulled out a handkerchief, and began blotting the stain. Slowly, methodically, the way someone diffuses a bomb, one careful movement at a time. Terrence was shaking, not from cold, from restraint. That wasn't an accident. No. She did that on purpose. Yes. "Monica," I said, "not yet." The older woman in 3B had been watching everything. She leaned forward and whispered across the aisle. "Sweetheart, that was deliberate. I saw her aim. Do you want me to say something?" Monica turned to her, smiled. A real smile, but the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. "Thank you, ma'am, but I've got this." Then came the moment that broke everything open. A child in row 3, a little boy, maybe 5, was eating a snack pack his mother had brought from home. He pulled out a banana, peeled it halfway, then dropped it. It rolled down the slight incline of the cabin floor and came to rest right next to Monica's shoe. Brenda was walking back from the galley. She saw the banana. She looked at it. Then she looked at Monica. Then back at the banana. And she smiled. "Oh, would you look at that?" Her voice carried through the entire cabin, every syllable clear as a bell. "Someone dropped your dinner, sweetheart." She paused, let the silence build, then delivered the rest. "I forgot. You filthy black monkeys love those, don't you? Tell you what, pick it up, take it back to coach, and sit with your own kind. You're stinking up my first-class cabin." The cabin went vacuum-sealed silent. The jazz playlist was still playing, a soft trumpet solo, but it sounded like it was coming from another dimension. The businessman in 1C put down his newspaper. His mouth was slightly open. The older woman in 3B pressed her hand over her heart. The little boy who'd dropped the banana looked up at his mother, confused. Allison Perry's phone was recording. Terrence's phone was recording. 2 cameras, 2 angles, every word captured in digital amber. Monica Sinclair went very still. Not frozen, still. The way the ocean goes still before a tsunami. Something shifted behind her eyes. A door closed. Another one opened. She picked up her phone, typed a single message, hit send. The recipient, Denise Grant, General Counsel, Ascend Global Holdings. The message: "Kill the Orion contract. All of it. 1 billion. Effective immediately." Terrence leaned over. He'd seen the screen. "Tell me you just did what I think you did." Monica locked her phone, slid it back into her bag, folded her wine-stained hands in her lap. Bigger. The plane began its descent into LAX. The seatbelt sign lit up with a soft chime. Outside the window, the lights of Los Angeles spread out like a galaxy fallen to Earth. Monica stared through the glass. Her reflection stared back, calm, composed, decided. The red wine stain on her blazer had dried to a dark, permanent map of everything Brenda Caldwell had done tonight. And everything Brenda Caldwell was about to lose. The wheels hit the tarmac at LAX with a soft double thump. The cabin shuddered. Overhead bins rattled. The seatbelt sign chimed off. Passengers began reaching for their bags, stretching their necks, pulling out phones. The usual choreography of arrival. But in row 2, Monica Sinclair hadn't moved. She sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, watching the gate lights grow closer through the window. Terrence glanced at her. He knew that look. He'd seen it in boardrooms, in negotiations, in the quiet moments before she dismantled someone's entire argument with 3 sentences. It was the look of a woman who had already made every decision she needed to make. "Now?" he asked. "Now." The deck bridge connected with a heavy metallic clunk. The cabin door opened. Cool California air rushed in, mixing with the stale recycled atmosphere of the flight. Brenda Caldwell was standing at the front of the cabin, doing what she always did, smiling at departing passengers, handing out her little rehearsed goodbyes. "Thank you for flying with us, sir. Have a wonderful evening, ma'am. Welcome to Los Angeles." Her performance was flawless. Until Monica stood up. Monica rose from seat 2A. She straightened the wine-stained blazer. She didn't try to hide the stain. She wore it like a medal. She picked up her carry-on, took Terrence's hand, and walked slowly, deliberately toward the front of the cabin. Every passenger still on the plane was watching. Monica stopped directly in front of Brenda Caldwell, close enough to see the mascara clumping at the corners of her eyes, close enough to smell that aggressive floral perfume. Brenda's smile twitched, automatic, mechanical. "Thank you for flying. My name is Monica Sinclair." Brenda blinked. The smile froze. "I am the CEO of Ascend Global Holdings. We are a Fortune 500 aerospace and logistics company." The words landed in the cabin like stones dropped into still water, ripples everywhere. The businessman in 1C stopped mid-step in the aisle. Allison Perry lowered her bag to the floor. The older couple in row 3 turned around. Monica continued. Her voice was not loud. It didn't need to be. It filled every corner of that cabin the way gravity fills a room. Invisible, undeniable, everywhere. Your airline, Orion Atlantic, was scheduled to sign a $1 billion contract with my company this Monday. $1 billion. I flew this flight specifically to experience your service before I signed. I wanted to see what kind of airline I was investing in. She paused. Let the silence do its work. Now I know. Brenda's face drained of color. Not slowly, all at once, like someone had pulled the plug. Her lips parted, her jaw worked up and down. No sound came out. As of 40 minutes ago, that contract no longer exists. I canceled it from seat 2A, the seat you tried to take from me. Every penny, every clause, every dollar, gone. The businessman in 1C exhaled audibly. Someone in the back of first class whispered, "Oh my God." Brenda finally found words. They came out cracked and desperate. I didn't. You can't just. I just did. I was joking. I didn't mean. You meant every word. Monica's eyes locked onto Brenda's, steady, unblinking. You called me a filthy black monkey. You threw a blanket at my face. You poured wine on me and smiled. You told me to go sit with my own kind, in front of an entire cabin. You meant all of it. Brenda's hands started to tremble. Her fingers gripped the edge of the galley counter behind her. "Please, I have a family. I've worked here for 12 years. And in 12 years, you never once considered that the person you were humiliating might be the one signing your paycheck?" Terrence stepped forward. He held up his phone. The screen showed a video file, 2 hours, 14 minutes, 38 seconds long. "I recorded everything. Every word you said tonight. Every single thing." Brenda's knees buckled slightly. She caught herself on the counter. Then a voice came from across the aisle. Allison Perry stood up, phone raised. "So did I, and it's already online. Uploaded 20 minutes ago." The cabin hummed with a new kind of energy, not tension, revelation. The older woman in 3B was crying softly. The businessman in 1C was shaking his head over and over like he was trying to unsee something. Brenda looked from Monica to Terrence to Allison to the phone screens glowing in the dim cabin light. Her mouth opened and closed, opened and closed. A fish pulled from water. This can't. You can't do this to me." Monica leaned in, just an inch, just enough. "You did this to yourself." She picked up her carry-on, took Terrence's hand, and walked off the plane. As she passed the gate agent standing at the jet bridge entrance, a young woman with wide eyes who had clearly heard everything, Monica reached into her bag and pulled out a business card. She placed it in the agent's hand. "Have your CEO call me, if he can." The gate agent looked down at the card, looked up at Monica, looked back at the card. Monica Sinclair didn't look back. She didn't need to. James Whitfield was sitting in his study in Greenwich, Connecticut, when his phone rang. It was 11:47 p.m. A glass of single malt scotch sat on the desk beside him, half finished. The fire in the fireplace had burned down to embers. He answered on the second ring. By the third sentence, his scotch was forgotten. "What do you mean, the contract is dead?" His VP of operations explained it in short, breathless bursts. Monica Sinclair, Ascend Global, the billion-dollar deal, a flight attendant, a video, already online. Whitfield pulled up his phone, opened Twitter, and the ground fell out from under him. Allison Perry's video was already at 2 million views. 2 million, and it had been online for less than an hour. The thumbnail showed Brenda Caldwell's face mid-sneer, mouth open, caught in the exact moment she said the word monkey. Underneath it, the caption read, "Orion Atlantic flight attendant calls black CEO a filthy black monkey in first class." The comments were a wildfire, thousands per minute. Every single one furious. Whitfield watched the video. All of it. 9 minutes and 43 seconds of Brenda's behavior. The thrown blanket, the spilled wine, the smirk, the banana. Every word in high-definition clarity from 2 different angles. Terrence's camera caught the audio. Allison's camera caught the face. Together, they were a death sentence. Whitfield called his head of communications, then his legal team, then his board chair. By midnight, Brenda Caldwell was officially suspended pending investigation. An emergency company statement was drafted. 3 paragraphs of corporate language that said everything and nothing. But Whitfield knew statements wouldn't fix this. He needed Monica Sinclair. He called her. The phone rang 6 times and went to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail. A third time. Voicemail. Her silence was louder than any words. Meanwhile, at LAX, Brenda Caldwell was being escorted through the terminal by 2 airline security officers. Her employee badge, the one she had worn for 12 years, clipped to her chest every morning like armor, was unclipped and confiscated. She walked between the officers with mascara running down her cheeks, still wearing her uniform, still smelling like that aggressive floral perfume. She called her husband, Victor, from the back of a security office. He picked up on the first ring. "Vic, something happened. I need you to—" "I saw the video, Brenda." Silence. "Vic, please, let me explain. 90 million people, Brenda. 90 million people have seen you call a woman a monkey." "It's not. I didn't. They're taking it out of context." "There is no context. I watched the whole thing." She called him back 4 more times that night. He didn't pick up again. By morning, the video had crossed every platform: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. The hashtags wrote themselves. Hashtag Monica Sinclair. Hashtag $1 billion karma. Hashtag Orion Atlantic racism. Hashtag Fire Brenda. Cable news picked it up before sunrise. Morning shows booked segments. CNN ran a chyron that read, Orion Atlantic flight attendant under fire after racial slur against Fortune 500 CEO. Whitfield didn't sleep. At 4 a.m., he booked a private jet to Los Angeles. He landed at 7:15 a.m., drove straight to the Beverly Wilshire, and sat in the lobby waiting for Monica Sinclair to come downstairs. She made him wait 90 minutes. When she finally appeared, dressed in a fresh blazer, hair pulled back, not a trace of last night's chaos on her face, she agreed to 5 minutes, not in a private room, in the lobby, in public, where everyone could see. Whitfield apologized, profusely. His hands were clasped together like a man in prayer. "Ms. Sinclair, I am deeply, personally sorry. We will terminate Ms. Caldwell immediately. Full severance revoked. We'll issue a public apology. Your name, your company, everything. We'll add anti-discrimination training across the entire airline, whatever it takes. Please. The contract—" Monica cut him off. "You buried 14 complaints about that woman, James. 14. Over 12 years. Passengers who said the same things I experienced, and your airline shredded every single one." Whitfield opened his mouth, closed it. "This isn't one employee with a bad attitude. This is your culture. And I won't invest $1 billion in a culture that treats people like animals." She stood up, buttoned her blazer, looked him in the eye one final time. "Good luck, James." She walked away. Her heels clicked across the marble lobby floor. She didn't look back. Whitfield sat alone in the Beverly Wilshire lobby, his reflection staring up at him from the polished table. The billion-dollar contract was gone, and he knew, with the certainty of a man watching his house burn, that the worst was still coming. The worst came fast. Within 72 hours, the Federal Aviation Administration opened a formal review of Orion Atlantic's handling of discrimination complaints. The Department of Transportation launched a parallel civil rights investigation. Congressional offices started calling. Journalists started digging. And what they found was uglier than anyone expected. 14 complaints. 14 passengers, Black, Latino, Asian, Middle Eastern, who had filed formal grievances against Brenda Caldwell over a 12-year period. Every single one described the same pattern: the slurs, the sneers, the thrown items, the refusal to serve, the dehumanization dressed up in a pressed uniform. And every single complaint had been buried. Investigators traced the paper trail to Brenda's direct supervisor, a man named Gregory Tate, who had systematically downgraded each complaint from discrimination to interpersonal misunderstanding before filing them in a cabinet that nobody ever opened. Gregory played golf with Brenda's husband every other Saturday. They shared a boat on weekends in the Hamptons. Gregory Tate was terminated the same week. His termination letter was 3 sentences long. But the investigation didn't stop there. Prosecutors dug deeper. They interviewed cabin crew members, gate agents, ground staff. A picture emerged, not of one bad employee, but of a system that had looked the other way for over a decade. A system that had decided, quietly and repeatedly, that the comfort of its white passengers mattered more than the dignity of everyone else. Brenda Caldwell was formally charged under federal aviation discrimination statutes, Title 49, Section 40,127, which prohibit airlines from discriminating against passengers based on race. Prosecutors argued that her behavior wasn't a single incident. It was a pattern. a career built on cruelty, protected by silence. The trial lasted 11 days. Brenda's defense attorney tried everything. She was having a bad day. The comments were taken out of context. She didn't mean it in a racial way. She treats all passengers firmly. It's her management style. None of it held. The prosecution played Terrence's recording first. 2 hours and 14 minutes of audio, crystal clear. Every slur, every whisper, every laugh. The jury heard the word monkey 3 times. They heard stinking. They heard filthy. They heard your kind. They heard sewer rats. They heard zoo. Then they played Allison Perry's video, the visual angle. Brenda's face in high definition, the curled lip, the rolled eyes, the smirk after the wine spill. The moment she threw the blanket at Monica's face, the moment she looked at the banana on the floor and smiled before delivering the final slur. 2 cameras, 2 angles, no ambiguity. Monica Sinclair took the stand on day 7. She wore a navy suit, no jewelry. She spoke for 45 minutes without raising her voice once. She described every incident in precise clinical detail. The skipped drinks, the plastic cups, the economy food, the thrown blanket, the spilled wine, the destroyed laptop, the banana, the words. When the defense attorney asked if perhaps she had misinterpreted Brenda's behavior, Monica paused for 3 full seconds. Sir, when someone calls you a filthy black monkey and throws a blanket at your face, there is nothing to misinterpret. The courtroom was silent. The defense attorney sat down. The jury deliberated for 3 hours and 41 minutes. They returned with a verdict that echoed through every newsroom in the country. Guilty. All counts. Brenda Caldwell was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison, 3 years of supervised probation following release, a $250,000 fine, mandatory anti-discrimination and racial sensitivity training, and a lifetime ban from the aviation industry. She would never set foot on a plane in any professional capacity again. When the judge read the sentence, Brenda collapsed in her chair. Her attorney caught her arm. In the gallery, her husband Victor, who had filed for divorce 3 weeks earlier, was not present. But the fallout extended far beyond one flight attendant. Orion Atlantic's stock dropped 22% in 14 trading days. Shareholders filed suits. The board of directors convened an emergency session and voted unanimously to remove James Whitfield as CEO. His resignation letter was released to the press on a Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, it had been read by 11 million people. His replacement was announced the following week. Carolyn Davis, a black woman with 23 years of airline industry experience, was named the new CEO of Orion Atlantic. Her first act was a company-wide address broadcast to every employee across every hub and terminal. The culture that allowed this to happen dies today. Not tomorrow, not next quarter, today. Orion Atlantic settled a class action lawsuit filed on behalf of 31 former passengers who had experienced discrimination on its flights. The settlement totaled $85 million. New anti-discrimination protocols were implemented across every level of operations: hiring, training, customer service, complaint handling. An independent oversight board was established to review passenger grievances quarterly. And Monica Sinclair? She redirected the billion-dollar contract to Pacific Meridian Airways, a competing airline with a documented track record of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The announcement generated 3 days of positive press coverage and a 14% bump in Pacific Meridian's stock price. 2 months later, Monica was invited to testify before the United States Senate Subcommittee on Aviation Safety and Consumer Protection. She sat behind a microphone in a wood-paneled room in Washington, D.C., and spoke for 22 minutes. C-SPAN carried it live. Clips went viral within the hour. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She laid out the facts, the complaints, the cover-ups, the systemic failures, and she offered solutions. Mandatory bias training for all airline personnel, federal oversight of discrimination complaint handling, automatic escalation protocols, transparency reports published annually. 3 of her 4 recommendations were incorporated into a bipartisan bill introduced the following month. And then she did one more thing. Monica established the Sinclair Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to providing legal defense for victims of racial discrimination in travel and public accommodation. She funded it with $10 million of her own money. Within its first year, the foundation handled over 200 cases. Flight attendants, hotel staff, car rental agents, TSA officers. Every case where someone had been treated as less than human because of the color of their skin. 200 cases, 200 families. 200 times someone was told, "You are not alone, and this is not okay." 3 major airlines voluntarily adopted new anti-discrimination protocols modeled on the Sinclair Foundation's recommendations. Not because the law forced them to, because the world was watching. Section 8. Epilogue and Final K. 749/750 words. 1 year later, Monica Sinclair was named to Time magazine's 100 Most Influential People list. The photograph they used was simple. Her standing in front of the Ascend Global Headquarters in Manhattan, arms at her sides, looking directly into the camera. No smile, no pose. Just presence. Ascend Global's revenue was up 30%. The Pacific Meridian contract had exceeded every performance benchmark. New partnerships were rolling in, companies that wanted to work with a CEO who stood for something beyond profit margins. But the thing people talked about most wasn't the numbers. It was what Monica did every Tuesday morning. Every Tuesday, she flew commercial. Coach, middle seat. She carried her own bag. She thanked every flight attendant by name. She learned their names by reading their badges and remembering. Sometimes she left handwritten notes on the tray table before she deplaned. "Thank you for your kindness today." Always signed with just her first name, Monica. She never stopped flying. She refused to let one woman's cruelty make her afraid of the sky. Terence Sinclair launched a venture capital fund dedicated exclusively to Black entrepreneurs in technology. He called it Seat to Be Capital, named after the seat where he sat on the night that changed everything. In its first year, the fund invested in 14 startups. 3 of them were already profitable. When reporters asked him about the name, he smiled. "That seat was supposed to be a place of humiliation. I turned it into a launch pad." Allison Perry's video reached 93 million views. She was nominated for a Peabody Award for her coverage of the incident and its aftermath. She left travel blogging behind and pivoted to civil rights journalism full-time. Her first investigative series, a 6-part exposé on racial discrimination in the American airline industry, won 3 Press Association awards and prompted 2 additional federal reviews. She kept the phone she used to record that night. She never deleted the original file. Carolyn Davis, the new CEO of Orion Atlantic, spent her first year rebuilding. New training programs, new hiring practices, a passenger advocacy office with a direct hotline. For the first time in the airline's history, customer satisfaction scores reached an all-time high. Not because the seats got softer, because the culture got better. She kept a framed copy of Monica's business card on her desk. The one Monica had handed to the gate agent that night at LAX. Underneath it, a small plaque read, "Remember who you're serving." James Whitfield retired quietly to his home in Connecticut. He sold the Greenwich House. He made no public statements. He gave no interviews. Occasionally, someone would recognize him at the grocery store. He'd look away and keep walking. Gregory Tate, the supervisor who buried 14 complaints, was barred from the aviation industry and faced a separate civil suit. He settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. His country club membership was revoked. His boat sat unsold in a marina for 9 months before someone bought it at a loss. And Brenda Caldwell. She served her full 18-month sentence at a federal correctional facility in Danbury, Connecticut. Her husband, Victor, finalized their divorce while she was inside. She lost the house. She lost her pension. She lost her professional license. When she was released, no airline would hire her. No service industry employer would touch her name. The Google results for Brenda Caldwell returned 47 pages of coverage, every one of them about the worst night of her life. She gave no interviews. She issued no public apology. The last anyone heard, she was living in a small apartment in New Jersey, working a job that had nothing to do with airplanes or people or first-class cabins. The sky she once controlled had closed its doors to her forever. So let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest. Not performative, not what sounds good. Honest. If you were sitting in that cabin and you heard what Brenda said, would you have spoken up? Or would you have looked out the window and pretended it wasn't happening? Drop it in the comments. I want to know. And if this story made you feel something, anything, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell. Because the next story is already coming. And trust me, you're going to want to see it.